Hello everybody! Hearthstone has just announced its latest expansion, Rise of Shadows, and we're going to see the team, the League of Evil, that's been built up over the past week, attacking the city of Dalaran. But enough of that lore stuff out of the way. I'm here to tell you about 8 of the new cards that have been spoiled for Hearthstone. And I've put together some of my thoughts and feelings and kind of went to Reddit threads and different sort of discussion forums and seen what different people think, try to consolidate that with my own experience and give you some hopefully quite insightful analysis of these new cards. Not just put them up on screen, point at them and go, look, there it is. But to hopefully say something useful about each of them. So let's just get straight into it. Now the first one is the leader of the League of Evil. I mean, I don't know exactly how democratic they are, but it seems like arch-villain Rafam is definitely the one that's put these people together. So he's a 7 mana, 7/8 minion in the Warlock class, legendary of course. He has Taunt and Battlecry, replace your hand and deck with legendary minions. Now the obvious points of comparison here are perhaps the Lich King, as this big beefy Taunt that gives you some value. The Golden Monkey that you used to get from Elise, and Prince Liam. So those are the cards that we're keeping in mind when looking at Archvillain Rafam here. Now he's great for both control and aggro decks, I'd say. In control decks, he turns your empty removal, your twisting nethers that maybe you no longer need against an opposing control player. It turns them into gas, and for an aggro deck, it turns your weak, 1 and 2 drops, turns your Flame Imp, stuff like that, into legendary minions, which hopefully are going to cost a bit more mana and be a bit better. You don't want to be drawing, when you got 10 mana, a 1 mana Flame Imp, you want to be drawing a 6 mana legendary, a 7 mana legendary that hopefully has a strong ability. Now obviously Rafam is situational because legendary cards aren't strictly good. If you're running a mid-range deck, then chances are you'd rather be drawing the cards in your deck than drawing random legendaries, and you've probably got key pieces in your hand that you don't want to replace, so obviously not a good card for combo. But this is really well situated in Warlock especially. The Warlock traditionally does like aggro decks, it traditionally does like control decks, because life tap is such a valuable hero power for both of those kinds of decks. And here you're going to drop the Rafam and then life tap into hopefully these gas legendaries. So I'm expecting if Warlock is at all strong, which it currently is, and it doesn't seem to be going anywhere anytime soon, I'd say, then I expect Archvillain Rafam to see a lot of play. Kind of the new Lich King for Warlock in particular. Next up we've got Kalecgos, or is it Malygos? It's definitely Kalecgos, but that was what I would call a joke. For those of you not in the know currently, Malygos' art is actually, apparently, I'm not a big WoW person, so I don't know these things. I was going to say nerd, but I didn't. That was nice. Apparently Malygos' art currently actually depicts Kalecgos, and Azure Drake currently depicts Malygos, so a little bit strange, but anyway, let's talk about the card. So Kalecgos is a mage legendary. It's a 10 mana 4/12 dragon. That says your first spell each turn costs 0, and Battlecry, discover a spell. So Flame Strike for free, that seems pretty cool to me. I'd say the most important thing to consider when looking at Kalecgos here is that he is a 10 cost minion. So it needs to do something really big to be worthwhile spending your entire turn 10 and being a dead card until then. Now Kalecgos doesn't exactly disappoint, but also it's not, single-handedly game winning. This card needs to stick around to generate enough value for you to be really happy with it. It's nice that the Battlecry gets you something straight away, so even if your opponent does remove Kalecgos, you still got that card from the Battlecry. It's kind of a 2-for-1. They've spent their removal spell, you've still got an additional card. Straightforwardly, it seems to belong in a sort of value control deck, but we'd hope that there's some more big spells to cheat out with Kalecgos before we're super stoked about running it, because currently the big value control decks in Mage currently just work because Frostlich Jaina is such a powerhouse. Frostlich Jaina is going to go, and Kalecgos isn't enough of a replacement by himself to really make that worthwhile. And the current choices for big spells like Flame Strike and Pyroblast don't gel super well together. So really we'd be hoping for perhaps some more value cards. If we had Fireland's Portal back, Caligos would be incredibly good. So overall, if there's a couple of good cards printed that are worth running alongside Caligos, and the meta is such that you can afford to play just a good 10 drop, not a game winning, not an incredible 10 drop, but just a good 10 drop, ideally on turn 10, not only will Caligos be good, but also I'd say that the meta itself would be in a better place if you can get away with doing that kind of thing without just getting crushed by mid-range aggro and combo decks. So Caligos for me is my meta barometer. If Caligos is playable, meta's in a good spot. If Caligos is not playable, either the meta's in a bad spot or there just aren't enough good spells to run with them. The last legendary that we're going to look at today is Chef Nomi. This is a neutral 7 mana 6/6 that says, battle cry, if your deck is empty, summon 6/6/6 Grease Fire Elementals. And the most obvious point of comparison here is Dragon Caller Alana in Mage, which she costs a little bit more, but has a very similar effect for what I'd call a lot less work. Playing big spells is a lot easier than milling out your entire deck. And the thing about Dragon Caller Alana was, she was only decent, I'd say. She was a useful tool in the big spell Mage deck, but she wasn't an absolute powerhouse. She was very rarely winning games all by herself. She was just a good little value engine that the deck sort of wanted to play almost incidentally. Really, it wanted to play Dragon's Fury, which was a really good card, and it just so happens that Dragon Caller Alana also fits into that deck. So there's two ways to play Chef Nomi. The first is a very fair way. You sort of naturally mill your own deck. Perhaps you're a control deck and you just get, into fatigue, and then you play this. You've got this big, huge, hard to answer board, and in that case, it's it's going to be pretty good. Maybe you're playing Control Warrior, something like that. But what I would say is, if you're getting that far into the game, if you're getting into fatigue, shouldn't you have a better game plan than just making a board full of 6/6s? It's definitely going to be good if they can survive a turn, you can hit your opponent in the face with them, but it's definitely not winning the game on the spot, and 6/6s aren't super difficult to remove for a lot of decks that are going to allow you to get into fatigue. Wouldn't you rather just play something like Mechathune, where you actually just win the game on the spot as long as you've got the combo? I don't know, but I'd say a 7 mana 6/6 that spawns a lot of 6/6s is a decent tool for these fatigue decks, but it's not perhaps the way that they want to be winning the game, which means it's probably not worth the slot. Now the second way to try and play this is in an unfair way, such as by playing it a turn or two after you've played Myra's Unstable Element, or even just the turn straight after, if it's past turn 5. I think that this way makes the card a lot stronger. If you are drawing your entire deck as sort of a byproduct of playing a Myra's Unstable Element deck, then making a board full of 6/6s is definitely going to be strong. So it definitely does fit into that Miracle Rogue deck, but that application is situational. You're not going to get it all the time. Myra's is already a really good card by itself. It's a fantastic panic button that when you hit the Myra's, chances are either you're going to win or lose as a result, and Chef Nomi's not changing that result that much. Whereas by himself, just inside the deck, Chef Nomi is really bad, so it might not be worth the slot in your actual deck. I think there is potential here, but ultimately the risk is not worth the reward, because those 6/6s are just going to either die too easily or you've already won. Now, getting into a couple of the new mechanics here with the Forest's Aid. This is a Druid card for 8 mana. It reads Twin Spell, summon 5/2/2 Treants. What Twin Spell means is basically this is a spell that can be cast twice. You pay your 8 mana, you get your 5/2/2 Treants, and also then you get a copy of this card put back into your hand. That copy can only be played the once, it's not going to give you another copy after that. I'd say this is a really interesting card. The token strategy with cards like Savage Roar has previously been very successful, and with Treant specific synergy like Mulch Muncher, it could find its way into a Treant token archetype. Although it's very expensive and the Treants are pretty easy to clear, your opponent needs to clear them twice before they're done dealing with even just this one card. So it gives you a lot of time to set up. If there's another powerful AoE buff that could be cast alongside this, so ideally costing 1 or 2 mana, or finding some way to reduce the cost of your spells, then it could definitely see play. But overall, I'd say it's only going to fit into a combo token strategy, unless there's some really bizarre card printed that just breaks every convention that I'd expect. So it's definitely going to need a lot more support to make this card viable. The twin spell mechanic though is definitely very interesting, and I'm definitely very interested to see what the classes more known for their spells, like mage and maybe rogue for example. I want to see what they've got to do with twin spell, because that sounds like it could be quite fun. Okay, priest now with forbidden words, a 0 mana forbidden spell, so it's a rare. It says spend all your mana, destroy a minion with that much attack or less. So going back to the forbidden cycle of cards from Whispers of the Old Gods. This is expensive, but incredibly versatile removal for Priest. There's a lot to be said about it. You can compare it to Shadow Word Pain, Shadow Word Death, Forbidden Flame, so on and so forth. Shadow Word 4 is one thing I've heard it called. But overall, I think it's going to be a good, playable, strong card, just by virtue of the fact that Priest likes to be able to kill stuff. Priest decks are usually either combo or control oriented. And whether you're slowing down your opponents to set up for the combo or just generally part of your control strategy, this kills things that Priest might otherwise have a lot of difficulty killing. So it's definitely not Entomb levels of strong, but I think it's going to be worth a slot in Priest decks, you know, pretty much always, unless there's something significantly better than it printed. Currently, I don't think there is. Okay, Shaman with Hagatha's Scheme. This is a 5 mana spell that says deal 1 damage to all minions, upgrades each turn. So the schemes are these new cards that are going to upgrade each turn. So this one deals 1 damage, but if you have it in hand for a turn, it deals 2 damage. Have it in hand for another turn, it deals 3 damage, and so on, with no cap. Other than, I think there's like a really stupidly high cap. Someone said it was 45. I can't confirm how true that is, but basically this can, you know, keep stacking up and up and up until it can kill everything, you know, excepting death rattles and divine shields. Now this is obviously a horrible top deck, because when you top deck this card, say in the late game, your opponent's got this massive board and this will only deal 1 damage. So in so many situations you don't want to be drawing this card, but looking past that, I'd say it does have potential in a control deck. Usually as a control deck you're mulliganing for your AoE removal early anyway, so it's not really changing your playstyle because you want this early no matter what, because the AoE removal tends to just be the best cards in a control deck. And Volcano is rotating out, so this takes its place in any sort of control or combo decks where you need to slow down your opponent, you know, to set up for your combo. But it won't make those decks strong by itself. It's a key piece, but it's not going to make the deck worth playing. And currently Shaman is in a really bad way, so it's going to need to see a lot more good cards be printed before this is, you know, worth playing. At its best, it's going to see play in an otherwise already good control deck. At its worst, it's going to see no play as a result of Shaman being too weak. They also say it's interesting that one of the most powerful cards printed for Shaman recently was Kragwa, and this is absolutely terrible with Kragwa, so what a shame. I hope we get something in this set that Kragwa can really take advantage of. Spellward Jeweler is a neutral 3 mana 3/4. It's a rare and it reads Battlecry, your hero can't be targeted by spells or hero powers until your next turn. This is an entirely niche tech card that is going to be completely meta dependent, but it does make a lot of sense given the recent change to the specialist format for Hearthstone tournaments. It's a good effect, the likes of which we need to see more in Hearthstone, these sort of specific hoser cards that really act as sort of an emergency valve for decks, that combo decks in particular, that become too strong. But for now, it's going to be completely impossible to tell how necessary this card is. We've got so many cards rotating out, so many new cards being printed. We've got absolutely no idea what the meta is going to look like. But once the meta settles a bit, we can start to evaluate whether or not this is important. But either way, I'm happy that it exists, and it's definitely going to see more play in tournaments than it does on the ladder. Last, but arguably not least, we have Evil Miscreant. This is a rogue common, 3 mana 1/5 with combo, add 2 random lackeys to your hand. You'll see lackeys there. Keyword, these lackey mechanics, there are 5 different lackeys. They're 1 mana minions with quite unique effects like Battlecry deal 2 damage or Battlecry evolve a minion, stuff like that. And there's 1 for each of the members of the League of Evil. Now, I expect that there'll be better lackey cards than this one, because an Amgam Rager with combo get 2 lackeys is really not appealing to any sort of strategy, much less any strategy we've seen before in Rogue. That said, if we get a relatively decent minion, say like a Chillwind Yeti with Battlecry, get a lackey or two, so basically like mechanical Yeti but with lackeys, then I expect to see play, because the lackeys are quite strong. They've got these quite unique and powerful effects, which could make for very interesting and dynamic games. Unfortunately though, a card like that would also be quite polarizing, because it would lead to a lot of games being decided by RNG. You know, you play the card and maybe you get bad lackeys, and maybe your opponent plays the card and then they get the better lackeys. I think something like Piloted Shredder, but with a bit more interactivity. Overall, I can't see Evil Miscreant ever seeing play, but it is a good way to showcase the lackeys mechanic. And I hope we see something a bit more interesting with the lackeys, perhaps a legendary, ideally neutral maybe, who knows. And that's it for the cards that have been revealed so far. I can tell that this video is going to have gone on for a little bit of time now, but please do let me know what you think about the cards, if any in particular excite you. We're going to Dalaran, so hopefully we'll see some exciting things in there. Let me know what you're looking forward to see, if you thought any of my analyses of any of these cards was completely way off base, or if I brought up any interesting points that maybe you hadn't considered. I'd really appreciate knowing that, you know, pat my ego a bit, why not? And if you want to see more analyses like this and card reveal discussions and so on and so forth, then please do consider subscribing. It's not the only type of content I make, but I do mostly focus on Hearthstone, although this expansion definitely did come at a good time, otherwise we were going full Dota auto chess channel. And please do share this video with anyone that you think would enjoy it. I don't mind where: Facebook, Reddit, Instagram, Twitter, MySpace, Bebo, anywhere you want. I don't care. Do it, please. It helps me out a lot. I very much appreciate it. But that's all from me for now. I hope that you have a lovely, wonderful day, and I'll see you next time, probably when more cards are revealed.